And once all hell broke loose, sort of, on November 5th, then the world looked different on November 6th. But my point about that is that people need to calm down. It didn't really. We're not at brink of a nuclear war, although these people are dangerous. They're sociopaths. It is amazing that they think they can pretend to have arguments about this escalation as if it might be a good thing. And you hear some of the Europeans now, they're afraid that Trump.
Dan Welch, good morning to you, or good afternoon. How are you, my friend?
Good to see you, Andy. And thanks for having me back.
My pleasure, anytime. And things have been so hectic, not only in the growth of this channel, but also in the world events that's going on. And that's why I'm having you on. Let's talk about Ukraine and Russia here. There's just been escalation after escalation. I was reading this morning that they're actually approving. I want to make sure you can everybody can fact check me on this, but they're literally approving nukes. Right. So I'm laughing not because it's funny, but just at the absurdity of it. Give me your thoughts and opinions on here. This escalation. Why?
Well, yeah, it is. Who's approving? I hadn't heard that one quite yet either. You mean Zelensky said where?
I heard the Biden administration has approved it. Then again, I could be wrong on that, but there has been a big time escalation here,
and you have to be careful of the fog of war. You know, not sure what. Right, there were some sources that immediately talked of new long-range missiles being fired into Russia, and then Russian Ministry of Defense said, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
And so it's
absolutely, let's be very kind of
what is, but the trouble is that that is the only escalation that the U.S. and the Western military powers understand. Because that's the only one. They cannot win a conventional war. And that's not in Ukraine. That's anywhere. Look at these. Now it's great that so many military experts and analysts are speaking out. But of course, no one within the system is. These guys are retired. And they made a lot of money. I mean, I don't begrudge them anything. But I have been speaking out from outside the system, and I got like slammed in terms of career choice, in terms of money, in terms of everything. That is by being, but it is nice that people are looking at this and shaking their heads. It's unbelievable. We don't have a traditional army. We have a massive expeditionary force. All of the wars that have been fought since the Civil War are expeditionary missions trying to move hundreds of thousands of men and machines somewhere else, far away, and to get what we want done over there. And so that creates an enormous history of just distance from warfare. And you hear what I wouldn't call them pundits, they would hate that. But the guys who are speaking out, you would find it obvious because we haven't won a war. That's basically it. There is not the attention or the knowledge to combat any of this on the conventional level. And so it's like it's September 1945. We think that all we have to do is shake the nuclear stick, threat another Nagasaki, and then, they'll listen. And it's creaky in how old that understanding of the world is. And one of the things that's amazing is that most other people in the world are understanding it. Americans are kind of waking it up and shaking it off. I mean, we've gone through a lot, and we talked about this off air too, that people are finally deciding who is this? Who are these people telling us what to do? They don't know what the hell they're talking about. And when they do, they're talking about their personal, political, monetary interests. Not even in monetary terms. They're all talking about derivative, statistics, exponents of exponents and finances, and there's nothing that talks about production, actual production of natural resources. That's what creates wealth, not this other. It does create the illusion of wealth, but it's illusory. And that's, the whole economy is based on this. And so they go around and say, well, Russia only has an economy the size of the Netherlands, And what are you, an idiot? How can you look at any statistics, look at production and say that? And then you have the British, not, I get them all confused, German defense minister who said Russia is producing as much in ammunition and arms in 3 months as the entire EU does in a whole year. Just wake up. This is what the future is. And it's not that it's World War III or now we're in the final stages. This has been happening. We've watched everything. It's like watching a glacier move. You're going to have an avalanche sooner or later, or an ice shelf break off, and you have all of a sudden have a big ice cube the size of Rhode Island, circumnavigating Antarctica. Like that is all change happens that way. All change, all organic change happens in fits and starts. And we are in the luxury chairs of watching this happen. There are a lot of contributors, like the other guys I like to look at are the people scorn and call them war porn types, because they, every day they're talking about the 79th Motorized Rifle Brigade in Vasilivka and Novokalivka and Mykolaievka. But it's amazing to see that people have access to this data on a real-time basis and are not listening to the elites that are running this show. And one of them said, it feels like this is 1945 and Dnipropetrovsk is Hiroshima. This is what the Americans did. Had nothing to do with World War II. I mean, they will keep pounding that. I had arguments with my dad, and I even moved him a little, but he was a combatant. It's still in the South Pacific. I goes, oh no, it was. We saved 1 million lives by not invading. We said, then you wait 6 months. We saved 10 million lives. We saved 8 trillion lives and 7 planets worth of wealth and humanity by not invading. The atom bomb was the best and biggest thing and Harry Truman never lost a night's sleep. Well, I buy that. The guy was an idiot. I mean, he was
Evil.
Huh? Yeah, well, oh yeah, we get it. We always get into that. But he was forced onto the ticket to prevent Henry Wallace from having any power in 1944, and he was joined at the hip with Jimmy Burns in the Senate, and they were gonna march through Russia with nuclear weapons. They had 100 targets that they were gonna keep on going if they got their chance. But that was the target. The target was, okay, the conservative group, the Russia haters, want to go on to Moscow. We're in Berlin, but we go on to Moscow. So first of all, you're not in Berlin, okay? We're in Berlin. And they let you, they waited on purpose so that it would look, okay.
But that strategy worked really well for Napoleon.
Right. And as we see, Hitler had just right on the heels of his failure, there was a school of thought that we have to move on to Moscow. So we absorbed all the Nazis into NATO, into our defense industry with the Operation Paperclip and all that. If the ones who didn't get to Argentina quick enough, I don't know. But then on Stalin's side, there is some report that the Russians wanted to keep going east, and so that was the point of this. I don't really buy that because they were fine. They were done. They had already lost almost 30 million people. There was no need for them to take Paris. But the bomb in Hiroshima, followed by Nagasaki, is known not to have changed any of the votes on the Council for Ending the War, was meant to scare the Russians, because it was 2 weeks after the Russians entered the war in Yeah, and so it worked, at least until 1949 or whenever. I don't, I'm closing my historical eyes, but it does come to that where now you have it, and Putin is incredibly blunt and honest and open. Just says, like, look, you guys have nothing. You have nothing to combat this. And we have no intention of using it in that sense. This is your fault. You, a stupid mistake to tear up the INF, the Intermediate Nuclear Force Treaty. And we know you're working on all this stuff. And we've been working on it too. You know how we know? Because they said it on television. His personal spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, said he learned about it from Putin's address. This was the secret weapon. Did you? I said, even before Putin made his speech, I was like, I got from different friends, a telegram, different sources. I got these videos, clips, which are now famous. But I don't know. This is, I guess the CIA must be monitoring my feed, because I only got 67 views. But anyway, they are amazing to see this happening. It scares the crap out of you. It's like, is that God? Is that what God looks like? Wait, did you? And I have one that's someone off their apartment balcony, and they're just watching. Someone in Russian means there it comes, and yeah, sure, here comes another one. It is the only rational symmetry I can find is with CGI or people's knowledge from movies. It is unbelievable to see what is happening, and this is something moving at Mach 10.
Man.
And they absolutely flattened this old industrial complex that has been making missiles and weapons since the Soviet era. It's all underground, deep underground in Dnipropetrovsk, Yazmush it's called. And it is not there.
Wow.
Not there. And there are very few, if any, civilian casualties. They are not interested. They're not Israel. They're not the U.S. They have zero interest in doing that. All of the, well, almost, I mean, a huge percentage of any civilian casualties are redirected, strikes that were taken off course but not shot down by air defense, and so they wind up in residential sections, stuff like that. People don't realize that when they read or hear the press. And as we were saying, the press is beyond belief. People.
Yeah.
This who's Singh? What's her name? What is her?
Where she was.
U.S. She's a spokesman for the Pentagon. Oh no. Anyway, she came out and said, "Oh well, this has limited practical use. It isn't. It's not as big a deal as people are making it." Kind of. Yeah. Darling, everyone has seen those clips.
Yeah, we're watching this.
It's like an upside down mushroom cloud.
Is this escalation due to the Biden administration trying to hijack the Trump administration and escalate things to make it impossible to get out? Is this about money, meaning they're laundering money through this and they don't want the cash cow to stop? I mean,
yeah,
why?
All of that, but it's not the thing. I mean, I always feel a little guilty because I feel like I'm glossing or oversimplifying when, and actually, to be honest, you have to read a lot less because to know how many lightning strikes there were in the tornado. You know what the general barometric pressure is, where the weather is going. And what I will say is it is all of those things in miniature. But remember, like we talked about, these are just two wings of the same bird. They are elites. They are spokesmen. Well, not the spokesman, puppets for capital and for the ruling class. And they differ with each other if everyone has on the same glasses. And I love the optometry analogy because, when you go in and they're looking and they want you, they're testing different lenses. And they say, okay, I'm going to flip through these. You tell me if it's better or worse. Better or worse? Better or worse? Better or worse? Okay. And they zoom it down to the ones that are best for your eyes. And I think that this is the point of all of the socialization of the media's kind of stranglehold on the American mind. You have to look at these two completely nonsensical. I mean, if you zoom out even a little bit, it's ridiculous that you would spend $1 billion and waste 20 million. We can talk about that some other day. But on pretending that there is some difference here. And you zoom in so much that you can say, well, there were 758 votes on this, that, and the other, and this is that. And it's meaningless. What is happening in Ukraine is just what is happening. And that is that 1945 is over. The war in Ukraine is over. The stranglehold and hegemony that the West has on the international global system is over. It's already over. What we're seeing is the detritus, like I don't know if you see logs floating down a river and some of them get caught up in eddies and estuaries and they make, there's a lot to look at. But no one's talking about the mainstream. And I mean that literally, the stream, in that case. What this does is people just are being trained not to pay any attention. What the Russians, that is to say, the Russia, China, Iran axis, is challenging successfully the system that has been killing millions of people over the past 500 years. Is it revolutionary? I mean, I certainly, from China's perspective, it's a communist strategy, but I don't think that Russia and Iran, for example, have the same. This is not inherently, not inherently, because I think it is inherent, but I don't think it is just anti-capitalist. I think that Michael Hudson is basically spot on when he says that they are BRICS is an attempt to dismantle the neoliberal model by having all of these multilateral loans to the global South in production terms, to the sectors of to the productive sectors of the economy. And I heard someone react to it and say, imagine a world where partners share until they all have infrastructure. And that's the opposite of the neoliberal model. That's it. That's the opposite. The thing is to create division, rake off the top, to kind of curry the scum off the pond so that you can keep it all, and the other sectors are just producing it. And the issue is that if you have these loans, the West absolutely jumps up and says that you're getting caught in a debt trap. I can't believe this you're raping Africa. I said, excuse me, are you from Europe? Oh, I'm going to need you to shut up. Oh, what are you? Are you King Leopold? You're going to tell us that we're raping Europe. Who the hell do you think you are? And a lot, most of Africa is 15 years old. I mean, you wonder why the migration? Why are they? Well, stop bombing them, and guess what? You get fewer of them coming here. If there is actual production-oriented things, and this is all being swept under the rug, right? This is all being disallowed as part of a public discourse. I mean, first of all, I can't. I'm so out of it. I can't. Chunke. I think I keep getting this wrong. This is the name of the port that's I don't know, 50 miles north of Lima in Peru that China built for Peru and for their own benefit of moving goods across the Pacific and then to Brazil with the other infrastructure that they're helping in this One Belt, One Road, the Belt and Road Initiative that they are moving in 85 different countries. And this cuts the transportation of goods by 10, 12 days or something. I mean, it is an enormous step forward and is absolutely just the beginning. And there are two things I think that are important. First of all, it's not Russia and Ukraine, it's China, right? Ukraine and Israel too. We can get to that in a bit. But those are like acne. They are raised pimples on the ugly face of the West. And the Russia, China, Iran, and other important pillars of BRICS are going to be what keeps this train moving, and moving at Mach 10, moving at 10 days faster across the Pacific, moving with new roads. And, what would you do? Let's just think out loud, Andy. If you had $6 trillion, let's see, if I blow up several countries and try to get a lot of money.
Yeah.
No, I said you had $6 trillion. What do you mean? You don't need more money. That's the point. Oh. And China had the same 6 trillion, or, I'm again oversimplifying. Commenters don't get on me. No. But in that same time, they've raised 1 billion people out of poverty. They came up with the Yangtze Three Rivers Dam. They have a mini sun that they're testing. Their high-speed rail looks like Europe overlaid on the eastern U.S. It is beyond belief. But they're the first. They're just like the Russians in that regard. No, it isn't. It's not beyond belief. It's beyond your expectations. Why are they so low? Why do you want your money? Let's face it, that's the point. Wealth is labor plus raw materials. And if they get to take it all and use it, 75% of the money that's sent to Ukraine doesn't go to Ukraine. It goes to Lockheed Martin or whoever is getting on the upside of those contracts. Same thing with Israel. And so, if you could imagine this being done, then it would look like this. People will always say, not what would you do with $6 trillion? What do you want the world to look like? And people, I think, are shaking it off and saying, well, yeah, I think kind of like that, or a little more like that. Yeah, I'm very, not cynical, but skeptical, I would say, that I don't know that any of this is going, Brazil has already been corrupted to speak out, to not. They're one of the main founders of BRICS, but they didn't want to let Venezuela in. What the hell is that about? That's some sort of CIA fronting crap. That was undermined it. That's what they do. And China, this is going on right now. You talk about the transition to a new regime, and okay, I think we should say regime, except it's the same regime. It's a new figurehead in our regime, or the junta, the strong man that leads Washington.
So where does this all this asks rhetorically, where does this end? And I mean that in the Russia-Ukrainian, because I believe it was ending or ending, and then you have all this escalation. Does it keep on going? And I'm not saying that Trump's a savior here, but there's an irony, though. I'm not irony, but it is interesting that as soon as he won the brush, everybody wanted peace.
Yeah. Well, I have an answer for that, and that was November 5th was the deadline anyway. That was the whole point. They wanted to get as much done before the election. They didn't want to tell the truth before the election, because that the opposition would use that as bait to say that they are not they're not in their right minds. They're bad to be at the steering wheel at this time, and so they wanted to kick the can down beyond November 5th. And once all hell broke loose, sort of, on November 5th, then the world looked different on November 6th. But my point about that is that people need to calm down. It didn't really. We're not at brink of a nuclear war, although these people are dangerous. They're sociopaths. It is amazing that they think they can pretend to have arguments about this escalation as if it might be a good thing. And you hear some of the Europeans now, they're afraid that Trump won't let them kill themselves. What are we going to do? What are we going to do if the Trump administration doesn't continue to put hundreds of billions of dollars into a war next door to us? What? Are you smoking? Do you eat dessert first? Like, what? I don't sleep upside down wet. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But that said, I don't think there is much of a difference. Like I was saying, what the Trumpians of, that's to say, old style bourgeoisie instead of the finance capital, they want to use that. That thing is over. It's kicking a dead horse. They've all known it from the beginning. They never wanted anything else. All they wanted to do was slow Russia down and maybe strategic defeat for Russia, that they would collapse their economy by spending so much on this war, et cetera, et cetera. They were wrong, absolutely dead wrong. And and all they want though is to take that money and use it as to push dump the one China policy and focus on separatism in Taiwan and start a war with China. That's what the Trump side wants. And of course, they're pulling, everybody is from the same. You look at that. I remember when I was in Nicaragua, when I had just like graduated, I was like 3 years out of college. And Elliot Abrams was the guy. He was the up and coming deputy, sub-deputy, whatever, of killing, Latin Americans. I don't think they called it that back then. But then I saw him in hearing like last year. And now he's like, he looks like a wizened, he has very crooked features. He's gone bald, and he sounded exactly, I'm saying, this guy hasn't been hanging around the corridors, like extensions and buildings of the Pentagon and the CIA and the State Department, which I think, I've never been to any of those three. I'm not sure that they're not the same place. I think not.
Yeah, right.
Maybe one interconnected like universe. Well, we think. I mean, they think. They think. We just have to agree.
Talk to me about the Middle East now. Netanyahu, and again, happy to be fact-checked on this, but he, I believe it was this morning, a ceasefire. That's a positive, but again, it's also confusing. I mean, confusing in the sense of like what to believe. Yeah, I mean, and I'm the biggest peace person. I want peace.
Yes. Well, Benny Milikowski, which is his actual original name, it's hard to know when they're lying because their mouths are moving. So, but I think it was it. I'm not sure about this. I haven't read up on the most recent thing, but it certainly is not on Israel's terms. They're exhausted.
Yeah,
they and what the Iranians and Hezbollah and Ansarallah and Hamas have been teaching them is that you can't do this anymore. Again, it's not 1945. The thing that you established, this racist settler colony to displace the brown people and take all their land and call it a country, is not for eternity. And what happens when things start to change is that you have a huge pushback. Like what is happening? What in one case, both in Yahu's case and in Zelensky's. I have another friend who's actually was he was the Washington Post contributor for South Africa for a while, I think. And anyway, he said this is like Jonas Savimbi in Angola, right? He was Henry Kissinger's favorite warlord, and every few years he would come up and say, "I'm sick of this. I can't I want to negotiate. I want to make peace. And they said, you get your black hats out there and fight. We don't care about you. All we're doing is underpinning your fight. Go get them. And the sad thing is that the script is identical. It doesn't change. There is not a single font change in the whole CIA manual, the whole like Western neoliberal neocon. This is what we do. And puppets and proxies get hung out to dry as soon as they are no longer useful. And they don't get a soft landing. They might get asylum, I guess, you could maybe find a villa in Saudi Arabia or Miami, right? So they don't get put out to pasture per se.
Yeah.
They get used and milked until they are useless and trash, liability. And that is exactly what is happening with Israel. It is, even for the stalwarts, it is a huge liability for the United States. And yeah, go ahead.
That out then is there a huge liability, and then this seems to be coming to a close. What is the end game with this? I mean, okay, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you just heard.
Well, it's the same question. Right. I mean, Libya is still a trash heap because of the NATO destruction. Cuba hasn't managed to outrun all of the sanctions and the blockade. Like, they have been able to keep the pressure for a very, very long time. And one of the reasons they're able to with Israel is partly because there's so much control by the lobby, the Israel lobby in Washington, and all the political class. But they also have they use all of these tried and true things. Washington Post came out yesterday with this thing about the editorial board wrote it. The ICC is not for Israel. They made a mistake tapping one of our guys. It's for Putin and brown teeth and Asians, right? The Russians are now Asian. They have to be subhuman, some sort of racist categorization. So Russians are now not white. The Africans, right? They had like arrest warrants out for anyone in Africa who was over 50. But it starts to come back on them. Like, wait a minute, we didn't mean it's okay to put an arrest warrant out for the president of the Russian Federation, but not Netanyahu. And it's okay for those kids to go and play hooligan football in Amsterdam. Like, what the hell? What? Because they are constantly spinning that coin, constantly saying, well, those rules don't apply to us. Well, no. I didn't mean international law, because God knows we lose that in a minute. We meant long rules-based international word salad. I mean, the salad order of international world words law order. And
you said something that I would agree with, and corrects me if I heard you. Yeah. No, well, it was like people are waking up. They're just starting to see what it is. I think you said that.
Yeah.
Play that out. I mean, I think that's where we go. It's like war party number one, war party number two. People are tired of war.
I know. And the Democrats have become the chief source of imperialist war.
Oh, God. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, Vietnam's over. Like,
Yeah.
who are the Democrats? They've done two things, right? The New Deal to save capitalism from itself, basically, and the civil rights legislation, which is imposed on them from outside. Okay, in either case, right? They were the same people who dropped the atom bomb, and the same people who was overwhelmingly clan-based across the old Confederacy. Like, but now they're the party of. So it doesn't make much. I mean, I grew up that way in my family. Going back, this was an Irish immigrant thing. That was the way to push for change, social change, all that crap.
I dropped you.
Yeah,
Tom Street. I lost the last 15. I dropped you. Go ahead.
They see that they're doing that. It's the NSA. No, that the Democratic Party has been the home of a lot of progressive subgroups, but it is still an enormous corporation. And if you look at those two contradictions, huge contradictions to the single greatest accomplishments that they themselves even tout, which is civil rights and the New Deal. They undid most of the New Deal by Taft-Hartley in 1948, and civil rights is like Johnson. It was absolutely phenomenal in the civil rights arena, but he was bombing the crap out of Vietnam. And
right. Yeah.
It's like there's no. So I having kind of outgrown that. I think it's like, yeah, I know, but what was I thinking though? I don't think it. But again, to your point, which I sound like I'm avoiding. I'm not. I think that it's hard to tell, and I'm not prescient. I think I'm watching things happen, but it's really hard to know whether liberalism is right. Basically, the fascists with the velvet gloves on. Like, they are pushing and producing the same neoliberal agenda, the same thing, just with a smiling face. And when they stop smiling, the gloves come off, and you have cops beating up protesters and limiting, civil rights, all of those things that have happened time and time again. That's not prediction either. That's just, history. And the thing is, though, I think I wouldn't dismiss my own logic as wishful thinking, but it's not predictive, right? I hope that this represents what you mentioned, the kind of split between the one war party and normal people. I would hope that people are starting to wake up. We do, because of the information age. We see people, in a lot of ways, it makes no difference at all. But you see opportunity for people to have access to this kind of information when it is completely out of bounds in any of you see Fox News, CNN, all this. You're having some guy arguing whether Putin is bluffing or whether his bluster means anything. I don't even know what the vetting process is. Why would this be news? How could this be? And this is what I read you the thing from a good friend of mine who I just introduced to my channel and a few of my podcasts. And he was surprisingly very admiring, and said that this is like a useful tool, a very effective platform for people who are too busy, too stressed, and too unstudied, but who wonder, what is this Ukraine? Is this an emperor has no clothes thing and mixed with little evil, or what? Because it does. We're not as unstudied. They think that that's what you talk about is talking about. The conversations. That's the idea, and people do have access to, obviously, to the history. I said, wait a minute, no, Americans are surprisingly lazy. I mean, we don't like history. No, I'm talking about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You mean Cabbage Patch? No, that was 25 years ago. But anyway, yeah, it's kind of like that. We need a new TV. Why do you need a new TV? You had got a new TV every Black Friday for the past 15 years.
Right.
Give it up.
You really have the point. If you just look at like the ratings, and I'll even throw Fox News in there. The ratings are so down, and alternative media like this. But you see, because I'm so small, that we can.
As small as I am. Look, still the bottom.
But alternative media, how such a difference it's making is for people getting their information, and it's really legacy media just hasn't been doing this job for decades.
Right. Or again, it is doing its job. Its job is to brainwash and to make people think that they are hearing truth. And outside, what's interesting is that is a thoroughly Western concept. I mean, Westerners love to pretend that they have unbiased media, and those African countries and Russia and China, right. I remember going, traveling when I was a kid or a young adult, go to West Africa, go into Central America. Some old guy stops at the corner and he buys 3 newspapers. There's the government one, there's the opposition, then there's the left. Then they just, what? They're all full of shit. I need to, and I found the same water. It's in some clear. Exactly. I mean, but I think that has been, like, I think that the boomers, like the real loss in World War II was some sense of like conviction like this. They kind of just brainwashed a generation, now going into 4 generations of people with, wait a minute, what about, Julia Child will say these things all like, well, you want a good diet? Eat what your grandparents ate. That's it. Just do what people used to do. They're not looking for some produced carcinogen, with that happens. That's happening with homeschooling too. It's like, why? I have my wife and I run a school, but I have no qualms with people saying these people are full of it. I don't know what the hell they're doing over there, but I'm thinking my kid can add 1 plus 1. I mean, that's another show.
Or another show, but it's funny you bring that up because we're homeschoolers.
Yeah.
Faith and I have 5 kids, and it was just what you said. We want that.
Yeah.
Just do the basics, man. You had read the concept.
if you're not doing the basics, you really suck. Like, but when you're done, what else are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you,
You might keep fruit.
standing up for the flag? Or you discussing current events with the mainstream narrative being parroted? I mean, all the other, or being trained in group mentality with long corridors and the lunchroom. I mean, there's everything that can go wrong does, and we see it every day. And yes, I did know that about your family, but only on a very, just as a fact. But that's very cool. I think that people are trying.
Yeah. I think well, I know that, and I would agree with you. Dan, you have a new YouTube channel.
Oh yeah. Well, it's my same. I can put it in the comments, I guess.
I'll put it in the show notes for you. How's that?
Okay. Yeah. And I've been trying to sell coffee. What is you? This one isn't that. This is it's not Patreon because they don't have to sign up. Like you can do a one time. And I said, well, why don't they go buy me a drink? Because that would be much more in line with my proclivities. But yeah, either one is fine.
Well, send me the link and I'll put that in the show notes. Dan, it's always great, entertaining, as well as just very informative. I really enjoy your talks.
So that's great.
Yeah. It's not again really soon. So thanks.